tempo for our next session. And without any further delay, I would request from TPF team निखिल जी कोटेचा को जो आए और हमारे अगले दो स्पीकर को इंट्रोड्यूस करें. I would just request both the speakers to take your seats on the dais. We have two eminent speakers who will talk on the future of technology, Mr. Uday and Mr. Rishi Khare. Good evening, everyone. So with us is Udaya Dhyala. Udaya is a seasoned professional with 34 years of experience. Over years, he has held various senior management programs in large MNCs, including his last position as country head, technical operations and business development and sales operations in network and IT managed services at AT&T India. Just for all benefits, AT&T is the world's largest telecommunication company and Fortune 500 listed at 13. Earlier, he was also Asia Pacific head of service operations at British Telecom. His strength lies in his ability to manage direct teams in multiple geographies, including US, MENA, and US and India, and Singapore as well. Having seen technology industry grow from his inception in the 80s, he is also adept in emerging technologies of AI, blockchain, and cloud. He is also an advisory board of couple of autonomous colleges, universities, and honorary professor and member of board of governance in Andhra University College of Engineering. A fitness enthusiast, he runs half a marathon and plays tennis regularly. Now Rishi Khare. Rishi is someone who takes the path less traveled. He was the India's head delivery at eData Experts Incorporation and jumped into entrepreneurship of founding Terapanth Software. In a short period, in a highly competitive market, Terapanth has grown to 100 employees with operations in India, Germany, Myanmar, and Singapore. Terapanth works in emerging technologies of mobile, analytics, machine learning, blockchain, and RPA solutions. He is highly respected by his clients, colleagues, and is called a walking Wikipedia because of his vast knowledge. Welcome, sir. And now to moderate the session, I would call our very own Pankaj Sancheti, the treasurer of Hyderabad team. Pankaj, please take your seat. Over to you.
Thank you, Rishabh. This session is a little different. It's a panel discussion, and I'm not going to moderate it. We will have every one of you put up their questions and answer them. For reference, I'll be just reading them through few questions. But what we have seen is from the morning, I mean, we have seen there's so much talk of technology going on, what it will come. So it's very difficult for a layman. I mean, I'm not from technology background, I'm a commerce background. So it's very difficult for us to really understand what is there. But it's at the same time, it is very important for us to know what's going to come. Otherwise, we will be left behind. So we don't want to be left behind. So welcome Udaya sir and Rishi. Thank you so much for agreeing to come here. They have come up from almost the other part of the city, 30 kilometers they traveled and come here. So thank you so much. So quickly jumping into the subject. So Rishi, my first question is, we keep hearing a lot of new terms these days and a lot of startups coming in this space also. I mean, the news, we have filled up with this metaverse, virtual reality. I mean, can you briefly explain to us what these are? Are these one, or are they different? Are they related? How do you, I mean, explain it to a layman?
Thanks very much, Pankaj. You guys can hear me back clearly? Okay. Thank you so much. First of all, this looks like a very lively gathering. And thank you very much for inviting us and making us a part of this. Echo? No. Little bit echo. Yeah, I think it's fine. We can continue. So, as Pankaj already said, right, we'll make it a lot of interactive discussions. We'll talk about a lot of things when we continue to progress. So yeah, let's talk about the points which you were talking, right? Metaverse, particularly Facebook has gone through a complete revamp, right? So much so that they have changed their name itself from calling Facebook to a meta company. They are still at the core, still a social networking company, but they're trying to change their perception towards future. If you really look the ultimate vision of what metaverse could be or what metaverse should be, I think you should look at some of the science fiction which is out there. How many of you are familiar with something called a Star Trek? Star Trek? Okay. How many of you know the concept of something called as holodeck? Okay. So imagine a room, right? Let's say this room, it's a good example for that. And if you really go and if you really watch that episodes in the Star Trek, which is a very, very classy science fiction series, in a room when you go, it looks completely empty. There are just some markers like coordinates. And then they use some fictional technology called solid photons or something like that. But in that room, once you are inside, you can't distinguish between the reality and the imagination. Everything around you comes like a real life objects. So the systems creates characters, animations, not animations, almost like a real characters, which are simulations of course. But as a human, all your senses are like that, which you can't differentiate, right? They talk to you, they interact with you, you can touch them, feel them, and then they can even kill you, right? If you get injured, you may die also. So then the problems which come in that kind of a space is like, you get addicted to living in that world because this is imaginary, you can control the outcomes, you don't want to come out of it, right? Or you can use that for fighting simulations, exercises, anything. You are traveling far out in the space and you are, zillions of light years away from your home planet, but you want to simulate your home planet environment. So you go inside that and you live in that, right? So the best way to imagine about what metaverse could be or should be is to watch Star Trek. Go for the episodes which talk about holodeck and you will get a really good idea what metaverse could be. We get to see some examples of that in today's world. So what we call as augmented reality or virtual reality. All of you use Instagram, mostly youngsters use, right? When you click your photographs with the filters, what those filters are? They just take your photograph, they change your age a little bit, right? Lakme has launched a new mobile application where you can try all the makeup without actually doing that makeup. And that is doing you in a real time. So it is changing your reality, right? Then examples of that were so far limited only to the two-dimensional aspects. Now very recently with the new upgrade in the iOS, you have camera and now you also have something called as LiDAR sensor, which is identical to what we use in the cars, self-driving cars. It's a new generation radar, you can think of it, and it uses laser instead of the radio waves. But point is that it has become so inexpensive and cheap. It has come in your camera and your phone, and they use that for unlocking your face camera, right? So you are seeing a lot of examples of that coming into real life in the technology which you don't even realize. In future, what will happen is that you can already point your camera to your feet, and you can find out whether the particular size fits to you or not. You don't have to really worry about actual fit. All your clothing is already, and this will happen in next 1-2 years max, not more than that. Actual metaverse will take some time because technology has not really evolved to match that level. We still don't have solid photons technologies, we don't have 3D holographic projections. But maybe in 1 or 2 decades, maybe 3 decades, we'll definitely reach there.
Very interesting. I think some examples we keep seeing. IKEA has an app where you can, you can select a product and then you can see how it looks in your room. So kind of.
So seeing was just one part where we could earlier only do a two-dimensional fitment. With the latest phones, in next 6 months to 1 year, you can do actual size. That okay, this will fit in, this will not fit in. Exact dimensions, color combination, all of that would be actual pure 3D.
So these are good examples of virtual reality. Okay, thank you for explaining that, Rishi. So Uday sir, we just wanted to hear about Web3. That is again a word which we, for the last maybe few months we are hearing a lot. So what is this all about, Web3?
Are you able to hear me? Now, are you able to hear me now? तो मेरे को बोले पकड़ के बात करो पकड़ के बात करता हूँ I think all of you understand Hindi as well? Good. Yeah. I mean, 3 बजे है थोड़ा स्टोरी से जैसे बोलेगा तो भी समझ आएगा तो वेब 3.0 क्या है करके पूछा तो साहब ने आप कितना लोग गूगल करते हो गूगल कोई नहीं करता जब गूगल जब करते हैं, आप जो करते हैं उसके हिसाब से ऐड वगैरह बेचते हैं कुछ लोग, आपको गूगल करने से कुछ पैसा मिलता है क्या? साहब ने गूगल किया, बोला अभी मेरा बीबी के लिए so much that kind of a sari I want to buy, then suddenly ads appear, ads are sold. Does he get any single rupee out of it? जब भी आप गूगल करेगा, based on information that you share, आपको भी थोड़ा पैसा चाहिए हर महीने में? नहीं चाहिए? नहीं चाहिए? चाहिए? नहीं है। वो वेब 3.0 है। वेब 1.0 में जो भी डेटा है कहीं लिखा है आप देख सकते हैं बस। वेब 2.0 में आप देखने के बजाय थोड़ा डेटा फीड भी कर सकते हैं, जैसे आपका ICICI बैंक का लॉगिन करके कितना पैसा है ट्रांसफर करना, वो सब 2.0। 3.0 विल बी ड्रिवन बाय आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, वेब टेक्नोलॉजीज, blockchain, OpenAI, all coming together at one go. इतना इंग्लिश बोल दिया, थोड़ा ठीक तरह से बोलता हूँ। गूगल का पैसा किधर से मिलता है? एड रेवेन्यू से मिलता है ना। एड रेवेन्यू क्यों मिलते हैं? बिकॉज गूगल को सब लोग, हम सब बोलते हैं, किधर भी जाके आया, कुछ भी पाप किया, अच्छा किया, हम गूगल को बोलेंगे। शायद बीबी को ना बोलेंगे या फ्रेंड को नहीं बोलेंगे, बट डेफिनेटली गूगल को तो बोलेंगे पक्का। एग्री? जैसे मेरे को अगर वेब 3.0 पता नहीं है, साहब ने पूछ लेगा क्वेश्चन, मैं गूगल करके देख लूंगा क्या है वेब 3.0, सो दैट आपको बोल सके। मैं शर्म के बिना पूछ सकते हैं, बट गूगल को पता है उदय कुमार को ये नहीं आता है। बट फॉर दैट डेटा दे हैव, दे अर्न around close to around $80 billion to $100 billion profits every year. Facebook, have you seen an Apple ad where one lady enters one hotel and her data getting sold, then she buys an Apple phone, and then Facebook suddenly everybody disappears? Have you seen this ad? Same thing in Web 3.0. When you use a Web 3.0 browser, already there are a couple of browsers available powered by blockchain. You will browse, but Google will not know what you browsed. Who पूछेगा जैन मंदिर किधर है, बट लेकिन गूगल आंसर करेगा, गूगल को पता नहीं है उदय कुमार ने ब्राउज किया। एक बार उसको पता नहीं चला कौन ब्राउज किया, हाउ दे कैन पुट एन एड अगेंस्ट मी? सो इट्स ए revenue killer for Google and Facebook. Okay, that's one of the application which is comes close to. Then suddenly in your area, using blockchain and Web 3.0, you can make contracts, smart contracts very, very fast. So that for example, मैं साहब को 10 रुपया मांगूंगा, देगा, क्योंकि उदय कुमार है, सुबह मैडम ने बोला था उदय कुमार अच्छा आदमी है, 10 रुपया देगा। मैं बोलूँगा 2 करोड़ दे दो, देगा? नहीं देगा। उसका भाई आके पूछेगा 2 करोड़ दे दो, देगा? ट्रस्ट के हिसाब से बिजनेस फास्ट चलता है। सो ब्लॉकचेन विल हेल्प यू टू अचीव द ट्रस्ट अमंगस्ट ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स। आई एम जस्ट ओनली 2 एप्लीकेशंस, बट इट्स गोइंग टू चेंज। बट एक पॉइंट होता है जिंदगी में, अगर आप वेब 3.0 को लेके आके गूगल को, फेसबुक को मारने के चक्कर में हैं, डू दे अलाउ इट टू कम? So a lot of politics is involved, technologically possible, but sir, I want to say respectfully, it takes quite amount of political battles to make this technology available. Thank you, abhi pakad nahi paye. Thank you sir. I hope story theek hai? Yeah.
So sir, there are this lot of technologies which you mentioned, but India के लिए suitable है क्या? I mean, just to give an example, driverless car is being tested and being run in US, but India में you can't think of a driverless car being working in India maybe in the next 20-30 years at least. So I mean, so the technologies are there, but they are not for the common man. So can you share a couple of new technologies which will change the life of common man in India, both for and particularly for a lot of people from commerce background here? So what could come in fintech or accounting, taxation? ये वर्ल्ड कुछ चेंज होगा क्या? आर देयर, डू यू हैव सम एग्जांपल्स ऑफ वेयर टेक्नोलॉजी कैन बी यूज्ड फॉर द कॉमन मैन एंड फॉर अस?
एक्चुअली सुधा जी ने एक अच्छा गाना गाया था, आई डोंट नो वेरी शी, बढ़िया गाना था, इस दुनिया में आएंगे बट लेकिन पछता के जाएंगे बिकॉज कुछ नहीं किया आपने, राइट? So it's a very important thing how these technologies help a common man. When I asked my driver some time back, in fact, what do you really need? Because I don't represent that average Indian. I am on the top 1% of Indians, so I'm not a representative sample. When I asked him, थोड़ा स्वास्थ्य दे दो और थोड़ा एजुकेशन दे दो, बाकी सब हम संभाल लेंगे. तो ये स्वास्थ्य देने में how do you give help to somebody? How your question, to answer your question, how it helps. For example, I worked on one project, artificial intelligence based eye screening. India में there are only 14,000 ophthalmologists for a billion population, 1.3 billion population. 14,000 ophthalmologists हैं. उसमें 2,000 रूरल एरिया में रहते हैं, 12,000 हमारे लिए अर्बन एरिया में रहता है. वो 20 मिनट लगते हैं एक आई चेक करने के लिए, आंख को चेक करने के लिए. सो इफ यू डू सिंपल मैथमेटिक्स, डू यू थिंक 14,000 ophthalmologists are sufficient to do screening for 1.3 billion population? No. We need to come with technology. So way back in 2018, when AT&T के द्वारा I worked with the Liv Prasad Eye Institute. We devised this device. You wear a VR device, you play a game for 4 minutes. आपका ग्लोकोमा, रेटिना वो सब चेक कर लेगा. तो a 12th class pass out guy in the rural area can go to a farmer's house and can check his eyes actually. So is it not artificial intelligence helping a common man? आधार कार्ड ले लीजिए, वन ऑफ द टॉप मोस्ट, हम लोग मैं AT&T में काम करता हूँ, हम लोग फ्रॉड के लिए बहुत चेक करते हैं. हाउ डू यू चेक ए कस्टमर इज कस्टमर? हाउ डू यू से ही इज द पर्सन व्हेन ही लॉग्स इन? सोशल सिक्योरिटी है अमेरिका में, बट लेकिन बाय लॉ अमेरिकन्स have an option to either to give their biometrics or not to give biometrics. But whereas in India, Aadhaar has biometrics, we can prove he is the guy actually. It saves the whole lot of time in distributing the wealth to the common man, and it involves artificial intelligence. When you do a biometric scanning, or AI is involved, like the retina scanning AI is involved. Federated computing, one of the topmost federated computing in the world is Aadhaar. So we can go on. My simple point to him, sir, with the digital payments already hit $1 trillion. We should all congratulate ourselves as a country. Even India doesn't have. Last thing I want to show is, you have seen our External Affairs Minister Jaishankar's quip on America. He went with his son to a restaurant, and in the restaurant he has to show evidence of COVID vaccination. And Mr. Jaishankar has showed COVID app, and his son who studies in America has shown a signed certificate, which is torn and also mutilated certificate actually. So we have to congratulate ourselves. That's how it is helping the common man. I'm sure with very youngsters like him, and an old man like me, I'm 100% sure with these technologies we will bring healthcare and education to people like my driver, so that their sons will contribute the economy of India.
Thank you so much, sir. So Rishi, do you have some examples?
Just to add to that, right, I think so couple of things which we take for very much granted, right? Generally, the things which you consider as liabilities or you things consider as negatives, they actually turn out to be ultra positive for you in certain circumstances. Take an example of our educational policy, right? We all say that, Britishers left us with the schooling system. But because of that schooling, I'm not praising it, I'm just giving the context. In Asian countries, we picked up English pretty well, right? Because of that, we excelled in services industries. And because of that, our IT revolution happened much faster. China has population, but they never picked up. Other Southeast Asian countries have that, they didn't pick up, right? Building on the same thing, if you look at India's population, it can be a liability, it can be an asset. For machine learning algorithms, you need data. India has plenty of data, right? For healthcare, you need a lot of data, and sir has built many startups based on the data. So we have no problems, right? Look at the same driverless car example. We don't need driverless car, we have plenty of drivers, we love driving. But if you can build a driverless car which can work in India, where else in the world it will not work? Right? That's the flipping the equation, because if you can build something which works in India, it will work anywhere, everywhere in the world. Example is, as I said, payment systems. Aadhaar and UPI put together. UPI is not rocket science, pretty simple. It's just one transaction here to there. SWIFT is far behind that, which is international payments. Indian payment system is far better, where settlement is happening in real time for micro payments. In Germany, it takes 2 days for a 1 to 2 days time cycle for bank-to-bank transfer. Even if you make the payment, their statement does not reflect the same day. You need to wait until the next day. So, another advantage of our population is that we are very, very well adaptive. 2 सेकंड नहीं लगता पूरी की पूरी कंट्री को चेंज होने में. रात में डिमोनेटाइजेशन, सुबह पेटीएम चालू. Would you know a single? I mean, you will had some cases in media reporting where things were here and there. But imagine, like, we are 1.4 billion people. Your currency doesn't work. Next morning we are running. Nothing happened. So as a country, we are very jugadu people. We can accept and take changes. That is our advantage. So technology will work. Point is, borrowed technology will never work. Credit card, debit cards with credit scoring, those credit scoring algorithms does not work for us. Our credit scoring has to take into account many factors, right? So we have to repurpose the technology or invent it from ground up. That works for us, but we do need technology, and that is going to actually differentiate us from the world.
So thanks Shashi. So this is something question I wanted to ask, but after hearing you both, I think I wanted to see how will technology keep growing like this, how it has grown in the last 20 years. Just to give an example, like if 10 years back or 20 years back, if someone would have said everyone would have a smartphone, you could get food with a click, you could get your car on a click, I mean, it would have been difficult to imagine also. So I mean, how do you see 10 years ahead? I mean, do you see really growing at the same pace? Virtual reality becoming a reality? What's the phase of development?
Growth is going to be exponential from here onwards, actually. See, what has happened so far was mostly building the groundwork. Imagine if you think in terms of industrial revolution, maybe comparison to that would be we just invented steam engine, that's all. Maybe not more than that. Or if you think in terms of evolution, maybe just invented the wheel. We haven't just scratched the surface even. So what will happen? I'll give you some examples, right? Our computing power is shifting and growing quite fast. Every sector which you look at, healthcare, transportation, logistics, what is happening is that all the hardware is actually being replaced to become a computer, right? Everything is a software, everything is a machine. Your car is a computer with tires. Your healthcare devices are actually systems with robotic precision arms. So slowly what will happen is that everything will converge. You will just get into a house where everything is rented as a service and available to you. You are monitored 24/7, your data is fed in, everything is preemptive. Even before you have a sign of a cancer, your system will detect that you might get a cancer and your preemptive treatment might start on those lines. But these are the basic things, they will anyway happen. Entertainment will anyway happen, you will have much better high definition entertainment, VR, AR. The most exciting thing in my personal opinion is again space travel. I'm a big science fiction buff, but I think maybe in my lifetime, which would be maybe another 40-50 years, the space travel, at least within our solar system, will be possible. Even we have a Hyderabad-based startup which is called Agnikul Aerospace. They recently raised a $50 million round, and I know them. They're like, some of them are related juniors from the college and all that. And someone sitting in Hyderabad doing space technology, that too rocket engines. They are doing a 3D printed rocket engines. Building a rocket engine is like, it was a very, very complicated thing. We can't even build a car, right? Jet engine we still import. For Tejas, we still import jet engines from abroad. We tried building in our Kaveri engines that didn't work out. But we have rocket engines which are being built now. And technology will evolve much, much faster. So I think space tech is one of the areas to watch out for. By the time maybe in 30, 40 years, if someone can actually have a lot of money, you will have those short trips to moon, if not Mars. Pretty exciting.
Thanks, Sri. So Uday, I mean, after years in large MNCs and after moving out, you've just started your new entrepreneur venture. I mean, I want to hear the story behind it. I mean, I've heard it, but I want the benefit of everyone of all. I want you to say it.
Yeah, I got unfortunately, has an opportunity to work in MNCs as well as also a startup founder. So I relate to the previous person's presentation before we came in about raising the capital and VCs and other things, etc. So again, I go back to what Sudha Madam has said about you come into this world, but what do you leave behind? You come with your mutti closed and you go with your mutti open, kind of a thing. So our startup is about that. I got always inspired by one gentleman called Peter Diamandis. Have you heard Peter Diamandis anytime? He wrote a very good book called Abundance. I think being a Jain, who our core principles are to help everybody, you should read that book. Peter Diamandis talks about abundance. Abundance is about providing all what the world needs, whether it's water, whether it's food, whether it's cleanliness, environment, everything, education, to everybody in the world, which should impact 1 billion people. And one of the Google Prize, I'll tell you, how do you educate a whole lot of people? How do you teach a person whose forefathers never went to school, how you can teach them basic mathematics and English in 6 months? That was the global challenge given. Google announced a $10 million prize, and one of the startup in Bangalore, okay, Chimple it's called, it is a runner-up, third runner-up. They went to sub-Saharan Africa, they used a technology like a tablet and figured out a way to teach a kid in a village in sub-Saharan Africa whose forefathers never went to any school, they could teach them successfully English and mathematics and other things. So the point is, his book talks about how several people in the globe are solving these basic problems. That way, they go back happily when they leave this world, they did something for this world. Okay? So same way, my son is autistic. I don't know, you know autism? You know autism? Yeah. They have communication skills problem, they have social skills problem, they have behavioral skills problem. But their IQ is intact. IQ is good. So how do you teach them these skills? How do you make them relevant to the world instead of becoming a burden on society? And how do you make them taxpayers? This is one of the focus area for us as a family. So luckily, I worked in area of artificial intelligence and other areas for quite some time. I like technology. So I felt why not do something before I leave this world. Sudhaji, again, I quote you several times. I want to say I want to leave something for this world. So as a family, we invested, we built a beautiful product using advanced artificial intelligence, augmented reality, chatbots, whatnot, to build a product which we submitted patents both US and India. It won good awards. It's going into production. It tested in Taiwan, UK, and India. So luckily, we got funding as well. Good philanthropist, Dr. Ravindranath, has funded it. So we're good. I think we're going great guns on that. So that 73 million people around the globe get benefit of this technology, whether it's Africa, Japan, or US, or anywhere. So it's all about giving back. The giving back is very important, friends. Can I take one more minute on this? Yeah. How many of you have luxury cars? You must be having BMWs, Mercedes Benzes and all this stuff, right? How many of you, all of you must be having beautiful houses, nice bungalows or something like that. But when you become sick, you go from your bungalow, you go in a nice your BMW, you reach to a nice hospital somewhere. But once you enter the hospital, you are under control of a nurse. Agreed? The nurse only gets 20,000 or 30,000 rupees. 20,000, 30,000 मिलता है नर्स को. तो इंजेक्शन ए के जगह बी देगा ना आपको. आपका BMW, जुबली हिल्स में बंगला कुछ भी काम में नहीं आएगा आपको. Right? Yeah, those guys are in ICU, they know what it is actually. So we are all working on a project, dream project under leadership of Dr. Ravindranath. Mr. Venkat Nalam is one of the director. We are all working on a project. How do you build a non-profit hospital and university in Hyderabad with 100 acres by donating money so that when I become sick, I want to go in my BMW, definitely. I want to go for my bungalow, but I want to have a hospital which will help the poor people, but I want to go there. I think all of us have to, my point is, to answer your question, all of us have money, we have to use our money efficiently so that it can be spent in a nice way to help so many people, or it can be helped to make more money, like selling the liquor and all that stuff. Those are businesses as well. Jua, gaming and all that stuff. So we have a choice, and as far as startup is concerned, that's my choice. We are going in that direction.
Thank you, thank you. Very interesting. I mean, his company's name is Cognitive Biotics. They are working for kids who are suffering from autism. So that's a great noble cause. So now I leave the house open. I mean, if you have any questions, please feel free. It's a gathering has reduced, but yeah, we have.
So the question to both the panelists, what are the flip sides of technology that you see? One is we saw make your customers lazy. We also heard about attention span of people coming down, maybe from 15 minutes to maybe 7 minutes, 8 minutes. So there are other flip sides. So what are the flip sides that you see in the next few years or in the next decade, and how we can solve it, how we can start thinking about it also?
Yeah, actually, the human being has one chemical in the brain called dopamine. The dopamine gets released, there are happy chemicals, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, these are chemicals. Like Jains, when they donate some money, a lot of oxytocin get released, you do a good job. Dopamine get released when you see biryani, pav bhaji, or you see some YouTube nice video for 2-3 minutes, dopamine get released. It's a very addictive chemical. And that addictive chemical, when you look at a YouTube for 3 minutes now, or I also have a habit of checking the news constantly actually. As though I'm doing great. I open my mobile phone, see Wall Street Journal, feel great about it. I'm busy. WhatsApp, I check 100 times. These are all releasing some happy chemical called dopamine. And one has to come out with dopamine detoxification. And it's a problem. Definitely it's a problem, sir. The only way it can be, attention spans are decreasing globally. There are beautiful methods. You do, just like you do detoxification by using Ayurveda food and Sattvic food, Jains practice some Maunavrat and all the stuff, right? You practice not looking at the mobile phone. Your attention span increases automatically. Trust me on that.
Just to add to that, right, I think so technology is just like any other tool, right? A knife you can use to chop vegetables and chop people. Problem is not knife, problem is who's holding that knife. Exactly same thing goes with technology. A technology in a good company can do really amazing thing for the world, and a bad company can really screw it up, and you have examples of both type of companies across the world. So then that's where the regulation comes into picture, that's where the governments come into picture. Unfortunately, the technology companies are at times bigger than the governments who can actually influence which way the elections goes. That's more of a philosophical debate and practical aspects, but On the other side, which no one thinks and no one talks about, which I personally feel, is that technology actually is bringing a lot of hegemony, a lot of homogeneousness in the society. You go into a mall in India, in Hyderabad, or in Delhi, or in Calcutta, or in Singapore, or in US, or anywhere in the world, you will see the same brand, same shop, same layout, almost a same culture, right? And because of technology, it is possible for the large brands to offer you identical experience across the globe. The uniqueness of specific cultures is disappearing because of that. It's an advantage, it's a disadvantage. The gatherings like this help you to keep your uniqueness intact, right? In the global logic, that is actually dissolving. So societies and special groups have to definitely put an additional effort to keep their identity intact. Otherwise, in next 20, 30 years, max 100 years, everything will be dissolved and we will be just one global village with one single culture, where something, again, the metaverse is just one way, but think about this, right? Think about social values, right? What is, in 20, 30 years back also, what was acceptable in one society was a sin in another society. Your values of society used to differ country to country, culture to culture. Nowadays, something which is norm in US is norm in India, is norm somewhere else. The flexibility in society based on the localization, cultural context is dissolving. What you are coming towards is shared global morality, which may or may not be correct. Sometimes it leans towards being ultra one-sided in the debate, which harms the other side a little bit too much. So the social aspects take a lot more importance. Societies have to focus a lot more on how they want to adapt technology and the changes that comes because of that. I hope it makes some kind of a sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, sir, you recommended one book. Maybe I want to hear the book name once again. What book is that?
It's Abundance by Peter Diamandis. You can also see his video. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
He formed a university called Singular University in California, where they try to, for example, you know Mr. Jindal, Naveen Jindal? Yeah. He also sponsored one prize. How do you provide safety to the women? How do you provide safety to the women from any harassers? So one of the Delhi-based startup was the first winner of this. They found a kind of a pin, a kind of a device. You can put in a hairpin band or locket anywhere. So when it feels that women went under stress, it will send a signal to somebody actually, so that nobody knows. The mobile apps don't work. When you get into trouble mode, the Moradar will take the mobile first actually, right? So these are all exciting things that are happening. Abundance by Peter Diamandis.
Just to add on the last thought which we were talking, sorry, 1 second, right? The other biggest problem of technology is that the deep work is becoming very difficult. What I mean by deep work, there's a very nice book called Deep Work by Carl Newport, but point is that imagine when we were kids, right? We used to go to school, we had no phone, nothing else. We can take a book and spend 4 hours and study something. Nowadays, to study something, you go to YouTube, you go to here, there, lot of distractions and disturbances, so you are not able to focus on one thing. You have so many choices to pick from. Even to order food, when you are scrolling Swiggy, you're just not going to one restaurant with 4 items. You have thousands of restaurants, even though they all might be serving from the same kitchen. But the paradox of choices is at its peak right now, and that is having a lot of impact on the fatigue. So you're not able to work properly. That's one big side effects of the technology.
I only want to say one thing. This is a Jain community. I have a lot of friends. I lived in Gujarat for some time. You have the answer already. Minimalism. You already have the answer. Simply we have to follow what Jain, Mahavir, Jains and all have told us. You are there. You achieve big things. Nobody is stopping you. You earn a lot of money. But live a simple life. Everything will be fine, like you said, actually.
So we have a word in Jainism for it. It's called aparigraha. It's something similar to minimalism. So one question from maybe the youngsters. Do you recommend any course to learn Web3, blockchain? Is there something shortcut?
Good question, actually. See, after spending a whole lot of time in the industry, application is domain knowledge is very important actually. If you see from domain perspective, suddenly it becomes very, very clear. To learn this course, I would say this: take a problem in your domain, 2-3 problems actually, okay, and try to see how these problems are solved using the technology. Did you understand correct? Take a problem. See, normally the way we start is we learn technology and then come to application. To learn these things, you imagine you go to Google and check some problems which belong to your area and which are solved by blockchain or Web 3.0. That way you understand how to apply. Okay? It's something like that. Learning the cycle and go to market is one way. Second way is I have to go to market because mummy asked me to get some jalebi. I learn cycle. So apply this way, it will be very nice way of doing things in my opinion, because nobody learns it by attending class. In fact, if in AT&T we spend a whole lot of money in Harvard program, Georgia Tech program, this program, Coursera, whatnot. Have you learned swimming or cycling by looking at a Coursera video or Byju's video? Or you cycled it? Yeah. Tell me, all of you gone to colleges, right? Somewhere? Whatever city that you went to college, do you know how to navigate the city better when you travel with bus and cycle? Or now you go on business to various cities in the world, you get down at the airport, somebody takes you by car, then you travel and come back. Do you know the city? So the way to do things are apply your own domain and go into it, you suddenly understand. Okay, so that's my advice. But in case you want a focus session on something like that, if time permits, always we are there to help you actually.
You can, basically depends on what you are trying to do. So there are two aspects to look at. One is what we call as known unknowns, and there is something called as unknown unknowns. So you know there is something called as Web 3, but you don't know much about it, which is one part. But there might be something which you don't even know what the topic is called, right? So knowing about the technology which exists but you don't know is also very interesting. And the more you explore, the more you come to know about those things. Because let's say now you know about smart contracts, so you can think about how to apply. Then you will pick a technology, plan it. But once you're studying about it, you might come across something more. Ethereum, coins, right, NFTs, tokens, hundreds of things. Once you know them, and then you know some other things, and then in that process, sometime it will click. Okay, this connects, right? So being curious and exploration is what really helps. Go to YouTube. You can always follow a lot of good channels which are out there. You see 1 or 2 videos. If it makes sense, you can see more. Content is available in pretty much every language. Hindi, English, Telugu, Tamil, Marathi, every language has a lot of good content out there. YouTube is a good starting point. If that builds your curiosity, you can then head to Udemy. Most of these guys who will have videos in YouTube, they will be short. If that makes sense, you buy their course in Udemy. Even the full course will cost you 400-500 rupees only. It's dirt cheap compared to going to a university. That 24 hours, 36 hours, 48 hours course will give you more concentrated knowledge than an entire semester in a top university. If that makes sense, then you think about university or other things. But online there is tons of knowledge available, and exploration here and there will give you a lot more new topics to get idea and inspired from.
I want to say one thing. Again, Jainism principle of minimalism helps here. Don't try to complicate it. Blockchain is, you see in this way, what is blockchain? It's simple. पुराने ज़माने में जेम्स बॉन्ड मूवी था एक डॉक्टर नो करके. Have you seen it? डॉक्टर नो. तो रूम में आने के पहले होटल रूम में रहता है जेम्स बॉन्ड. आने के बाद चेक करते हैं कोई एक कुछ छोटा सा चीज़ छोड़ के जाता है, वो चेंज हो गया क्या करके. Blockchain is also like that, using a function called hash function. You know, a major document is changed or not. So when you apply, where to apply these simple things, you simplify the technology because you don't need, you are a financial professionals. You just understand the concept. Then you say how it can be applied. That will give you a lot of dividend. Don't try to be master of everything. Actually, what it can do is important. In case you want some help, We can always make one simple, in fact, always I have in my mind to write a book which will make technology very simple for the people in not more than 20 pages actually. Because sometimes writing big book also is boring.
Hi, I have two questions. So first is like as automation and AI is increasing too much, and all the processes in the different industries are automated, and I feel in future the jobs will be reduced. Like is one of the technologies in real estate, it's 3D construction, which is now in the Bangalore we are introducing that one of the homes are constructed without laborers. So what will happen with those laborers who are not educated? How we will cope up on those situations? Like automation is good, but on those situations, what we will do?
I think I'll give you a very beautiful question, and honestly, sometimes I also get very sleepless night because I'm also in the services sector. So, but I'll give you example, and I think this probably would make a lot of sense. When I was a kid, I didn't know what the internet was, right? And then the computers were actually getting introduced in India, and there was an article in a Hindi newspaper. कंप्यूटर भारत के लिए सही है या गलत है एंड उसमें एक एग्जांपल दिया था और दैट लाइन आई स्टिल रिमेंबर एंड आई थिंक दिस फोरम इट प्रॉब्ली अगेन कनेक्ट्स द डॉट बैक एक अकाउंटिंग फर्म में अकाउंट्स मेंटेन करने के लिए 10 अकाउंटेंट लगते हैं सारा काम कंप्यूटर कर लेगा तो नॉन अकाउंटेंट के जॉब का क्या होगा दैट वाज द लाइन इन दैट सिस्टम आई थिंक व्हेन आई वाज इन 5th और 6th क्लास राइट 20-25 years बैक अभी क्या हुआ अकाउंटेंट्स का
Accountants are still there, like, but the
correct
numbers are
right.
reduced.
So now what has happened is that technology has come to the aid of accountants. Your job is no longer to open the ledger manually and match every entry. You don't have to do calculations. System does it for you. Now whatever manual process you do is getting automated. Your conciliation, reconciliation process, error finding, compliance filing, report filing, anything which we call as a monkey work, right? For the lack of better word, apologies for the term. But point is that if you pick a reasonably good IQ person and train him in the process once, the process can be repeated. So that job is going to be taken over by machines for sure. But there will be new opportunities which will come into picture. So if you are building a business which is purely focused on manual work, where there is no scope of consulting, so as to speak, it's only about maintaining paperwork, then the future is definitely going to be very bleak. AI, you don't even need AI. A basic automation is sufficient to eat your job. And that is the future, right? And that will also happen very, very fast, just like what happened to taxi companies. In one night, all the taxi companies either merged with Uber or Ola or went away, out of business. So same way, automation is going to eat a lot of software itself, but there is a lot of new things which is going to come. So if we talk about Web3, there is a whole lot of administration piece about it. To do an audit of that blockchain is itself such a complicated and huge task, and it's not very different from what you guys do in terms of your regular audits. Only thing is it's now technology driven audit in a different way. So opportunities of one side will disappear, but thousands and thousands of new opportunities will come into picture. That is my gut feeling.
In fact, Deloitte, I saw some study in Europe, in 1900, starting of 1900s, there are only some 30,000 barbers, haircutting guys actually. Now there are close to a couple of million barbers are there. Because if you see ourselves also, when I was a kid, the barber used to charge some $10 and there only one cut, either short cut or medium cut.
No short, medium.
Today, you go to Kukatpalli, every corner has a beauty parlor. There are 10 types of tan, silver tan, golden tan, platinum tan, this pedicure, that pedicure, this manicure, that manicure. So what is happening, I want to leave a thought with you. This is very normal behavior in the globe. With abundance principle, again when you read Peter Diamond is, we are living in a beautiful world where nobody is dying of hunger actually. Okay? We have universal basic income will come because robots will produce food at one point of time, and we'll have abundant food coming our way with vertical farming. Again, jungles will be reclaimed actually, like in Netherlands they are doing already. They are building vertical farms and converting the fields into jungles again. With all the stuff, universal basic income, you will have money to the common people. But if you have too much money, then it's a problem actually. Otherwise you will have. With that, what will happen is, People will spend money on discretionary things because they have time on entertainment and beauty. So invest on all the entertainment companies and beauty companies because people will have a lot of money to spend actually.
Sorry, just to add on that thought, just a minute, right? I think when you take the software automation piece and add it with the robotics, you have infinitely more interesting possibilities. We were talking about agri-tech earlier. Agri-tech requires very simple robotics, right? You just have to plug, put the plant, remove the weeds out and all that. Nowadays you have agri-robots which don't need pesticides. They can manually weed out the pests from the system. They will only put a micro dot of water on top of the plant, just sufficient for that plant. They can do the farming far better than humans can do. The plant about the talk about haircut, for example, you will get very, very robot driven parlors which can cut your hair with a laser with ultra fine precision, right? You can see in your simulation how your haircut would look like and they will just make that happen. So the possibilities are far more scary when you compare the robotics with automation in picture.
And I have like next question to this only, that robotics we are talking about. Like as humanoids are in the progress and we have like our first cities in from the Dubai, that like UAE, Sofia as our humanoid. But in future, as every company, like a lot of companies which are doing and working on the humanoids, and they are on the emotion capturing and everything they are doing, don't you think this will be like a great I think so that can be a threat to us also?
See, we are thinking very low. There is a higher level thing I'll tell you. Today we have technology where I can take a Mahesh Babu and I need 6 hours of Mahesh Babu's time. Afterwards, Mahesh Babu is not required. I can make a movie with Mahesh Babu doing everything actually. So we are living in this world where Mahesh Babu will sit somewhere in Bahamas. His trademark will work somewhere. Today we use in our autism thing, some of the parents say that my son only listens to my voice. The computer voice he doesn't want to hear actually. We have a technology called GAN, Generative Adversarial Networks, where you give half and half of your voice. I'll make computer speak exactly like you. So we are living in a different world, nobody can stop it. And whether it will cause a problem or not, I don't think it will cause a problem because Telugu, I don't know how many of you speak Telugu here. There is a saying, Satakoti Daridralak Anantakoti Upayalu Unnai. For Mr. Mukesh, I'll convert it. For a 100 crore problem, there are infinite crore solutions. We'll figure out a solution, don't worry.
We have last question.
Hi, good afternoon. This question is for both of you. For example, the blockchain technology was introduced to remove any governing body over us, right? For example. So if a multinational company, for example, Google, implements blockchain technology, isn't it defeating the whole purpose of not having a governing body over us? And if a company like Google is not implementing blockchain, and if it is, in the hands of the common public to implement a solution on blockchain, wouldn't that push, which would be getting from an MNC, which would have pushed the technology further, would that not be required for it to flourish, the technology?
First of all, in a blockchain architecture, that guy is the guy who will ensure that everything is managed actually in a proper way. Who owns the certification authority is the critical piece actually. Okay? Sometimes in the case of Bitcoin, nobody owns it. In case some government puts it, government will own that CA, certification authority. So it depends upon the use case that you are using for the blockchain. You can't say for everything. Ultimately, my opinion is for certain areas, no person should be managing it. So in certain areas, like Bitcoin kind of a thing, we can't even depend on governments. For example, I love you are money people, I can't teach you money first of all. But I heard long way back, the currencies of money, if you see the story of money, money was earlier a representative currency, gold. रोमन किंग के पास कितना गोल्ड है उतना ही सिक्का आता था. तो it was proven the years the Roman emperor lost wars, to give money to his soldiers, he used to add copper, more copper. The years when he won the war, the gold content was higher. So fudging of the money was there for a long, long time, and governments also fudge it very, very nicely. That's why you see inflation actually in this country. So Bitcoin kind of a thing. So it depends on use case, sir. But every blockchain network will have one certification authority, and depending on the regulator, either it can be completely nobody owns it or somebody may own it. And again, your choice. You want to join that network or you don't want to join the network.
And just to add on the same points, I think, right, I'll not get into technicalities, but this is one of the problems with NFTs, right? I mean, you own an asset, which is fine, but who's going to enforce it that you actually own it? No one does, right? I mean, tomorrow you claim I own 100% of this NFT, this got sold for some amount and I want the money. Who will give you? You can just take that, but unless some authority recognizes that this particular blockchain is authorized for this sector, then that will happen. So that's the reason why we actually had so much of hype around blockchain initially. Blockchain is not new, right? It's been around for a while. But the problem is that the blockchain will be used when only someone as strong as a government comes into equation, says we want to adapt it, and enforce the entire stakeholders team to actually use it. Some of the areas such as land ownerships, always disputed within any country, vehicle registrations, healthcare related data, all these areas where blockchain will actually use and controlled by the government. Private companies will use when it will make sense for them to actually use it. I'll give you another example. Starbucks has actually launched a program which is about their memberships, right? This is called rewards and loyalty points, and that's where the consumer world you will see the first example of Web3 coming into equation. So they have launched their entire loyalty program, which manages about 1.6 billion worth of assets across the globe in Web3 based tokens. So you can do everything which you do with that kind of a world, but you wouldn't even know that there is something such deep technology behind the scenes that is running, right? But in that case, company is using it because it is making sense for them financially. They were a coffee company, they are half tech company and half fintech company in this process. And sorry, I think the previous question we were talking about robotics and the automation part, right? Just to fill and conclude on that, I think the fear is essentially a lot on the military side. So when you combine robotics, AI, all those things, and then you can actually have armies. They are already robotics. So if you look at the Boston Dynamics robots, they are like far more scary than a normal soldier. You can't kill them. So those possibilities are really, really scary. But again, we don't know. I mean, again, what kind of governments have them and how do they control them? But the more common applications will be in a common life, and they won't look like humanoids. They will be very simple, small, purpose-built robots which will only do one thing pretty well. Even if you will get something in your home which can do your cooking, it will be just one or two pair of hands, nothing of face or emotions and all that.
Okay, I think all of us traveled 20 years in future and we saw how things will look like. I think it's amazing, but at times it's scary also to know that world is changing so fast, and I think all of us thinking how we will keep pace with that. Very interesting when Mr. Uday was sharing that the work he was doing for the autism children, really inspiring. And also Mr. Rishi mentioning about how technology is changing our daily course of life. So really thank you both the gentlemen for taking time out for your busy schedule and giving our forum an insight in the future. Now I request Himatji Mandot, our TPF National General Secretary, Anita Ji Giria from Mahila Mandal, and Sabha ke Purva Adhyaksh संचेती जी आप आगे आएं और दीपक जी प्लीज ज्वाइन फॉर द फोटोग्राफ सुनील
or energetic? Right. So now it's one time, but what to do, Moksha?
जब करने आए हैं नेटवर्किंग तो अब जान ही लेते हैं एक दूसरे की फीलिंग.
Good idea. So as you have already picked up your slips activity and write your names on those blank slips, and you have to introduce each other to your group members. Every person can take 10 to 15 seconds and you have to tell about themselves and make sure you know your team very well. Along with that, do notice there is a form, basically questions. So we'll see how you just have to collect the data along with your team names and fill that. I think we'll give you 5 minutes. Attention please. यात्रीगण कृपया ध्यान दें. मैं निधि रूनवाल,
मैं मोक्षा सुराना
और हम सब आप सबका टीपीएफ की समन्वय कॉन्फ्रेंस में एक बार फिर से स्वागत करते हैं. तापमान में ढेर सारी एनर्जी है और ऐसा लग रहा है कि आप सब बहुत एंजॉय कर रहे हैं. सेशन के लिए अपनी कुर्सी की पेटी बांध लें. इस सेशन के दौरान अकेले रहना मना है. Until then, enjoy knowing each other. Guys, you're not allowed to be silent. You have to talk to each other. You have to tell about yourself to your team members. Your team should know yourself, you.
Okay, so let's do this. Quickly, one of you stand up in your team.